Hello, everyone. I'm Olympia. Thank you for being here with me in this wonderful place called Lights Out Library. And I have a great story to tell you. Tonight, we will embark on a long, long journey and explore the earlier ages of our planet. I'm going to tell you about dinosaurs in general. We'll talk about the definition of what a dinosaur is and what it is not. And I will also tell you about the history of paleontology, the study of fossils, the evolution of species, and what we know about particular types or species of dinosaurs. For the most part, the information I'm going to share with you tonight is based only on theories and the understanding of the ancient ages of our world. The theories about this are in constant evolution, so they should be taken as a work in progress, as a state of knowledge that could be altered or even changed in the future. But first, I would like to let you know that we have a Patreon page for those of you who wish to and can support this project. Get more from it and listen ad-free on your favorite podcast app. Patreon is a platform that allows you to contribute directly to our work financially. Our least expensive tier is $3.50 per month, but it doesn't mean you will get less. We let people contribute what they wish or can, and everyone gets everything that is on our page. Because the world is a better place when the sun shines for everyone. You will gain access to 24 exclusive episodes, and we add a new one every month. And you can listen and download all the episodes with and without background sounds. And as a token of gratitude, we offer advance releases to our patrons. We have added links to Patreon, as well as links to different streaming options, which may be better suited for you. You will find them in the description of the episode. And now, before we begin, if you wish to, you may close your eyes and allow yourself to forget about any worries. Assume a comfortable position. Maybe move a bit to settle. Take a long, deep, relaxing breath. And when you slowly exhale, feel your shoulders drop. Release the tension in your neck. Let your face soften and your jaw relax. Make sure your fingers are not clenched and that your legs are relaxed too. And allow the sound of my voice to guide you through this journey. And now, off we go. Long before our species even existed, imagine you are flying above 150 million years ago, during the Jurassic Period. Long mass on Earth had gathered into a single giant continent, Pangea, a supercontinent that existed between 280 and 230 million years ago. It broke up during the Jurassic due to plate tectonics, and its northern half, Laurentia, broke again into North America and Eurasia as a rift that became the Atlantic Ocean opened between them. The other half in the south, a continent called Gondwana, also broke up later, and its split made Africa, South America, India, and Australia appear. But seen from above, the Earth's continents looked nothing like they do today. The climate was also different. It was warmer and more humid, like in subtropical regions nowadays. The oceans contain abundant and diverse life. At the top of the food chains, were the long-necked plesiosaurs. There were also sharks, giant marine crocodiles, and in many of the new seas that appeared with the fractioning of Pangea, there was an abundance of coral reefs, sponges, mollusks, ammonites, or squid-like animals. And who ruled their lands? The largest land creatures to ever live on the surface, dinosaurs. There were small species of dinosaurs just a foot long. There were medium-sized species, and then there were giants like Brachiosaurus, Diplodocus, Stegosaurus, Allosaurus, or Tyrannosaurus. These species did not live all at the same time, and they didn't live everywhere either. Some of them may never have been able to meet because they were too far apart. Just like an Indian tiger and the North American grizzly could never meet in nature today. But everywhere on the planet, and for dozens of millions of years, dinosaurs thrived. But what is and what is not a dinosaur? There is a general definition of the term, a general understanding in common language that would tend to include all reptile-like creatures that lived in ancient periods on our planet. This definition appeared in the 19th century with the first discoveries of dinosaur fossils, and it includes creatures that are not dinosaurs, according to paleontologists today. For example, there are species sometimes mistaken for dinosaurs that appeared and went extinct before the dinosaurs. An example is Dimetrodon. Dimetrodon lived 290 to 270 million years ago. This is twice as far in the past as the Jurassic Period relative to us. It is not a dinosaur, even though it looked like one. It had a large spine sail on its back that probably served either to regulate its temperature or was used in courtship display and to threaten rivals, or both. Dimetrodon was not a reptile. It was actually closer to mammals than modern reptiles. And it went extinct 40 million years before the very first dinosaurs. Another group of animals commonly mistaken for dinosaurs is pterosaurs. They belong to another group called Pterosauria that went extinct, and they are not related to modern birds in any way. And finally, sea reptiles like Plesiosaurus or Mosasaurus are not dinosaurs either. So what would be the scientific definition of a dinosaur? Whatever their size, what dinosaurs have in common is that they belong to the same branch of the evolutionary tree. They belong to the same clade. So what is a clade? It is a way in biology of classifying organisms based on their relation to a common ancestor. Imagine a tree of life with all species. The clade is a branch of the tree. It starts with a species or a population and includes all its lineal descendants, other organisms that have evolved from it. This is what dinosaurs have in common, an ancestor. Other creatures that may have looked like them or lived during the same period are not classified as dinosaurs because they belong to another branch. Clades are nested. They can contain smaller clades as the evolution of species leads to significant divergences in the tree of life. In the case of dinosaurs, there are two main branches to the clade. Fossil records indicate that during the late Jurassic period, the lineage of dinosaurs with feathers developed and formed a branch of the evolution called avian dinosaurs, also known as birds. This branch survived the extinction of the other branch, the non-avian dinosaurs, and it thrived until our time. So in this sense, the clade of dinosaurs is still alive and well. They are around us even though the non-avian dinosaurs are no more. But for tonight, we are going to focus on non-avian dinosaurs, so we will leave the birds aside for now. This approach in relation to the classification of species has revolutionized biology in the past 50 years. It has now become mainstream within the scientific community and clashes a bit with the previous traditional classification of species that was in use in previous centuries. Some terms are still used in everyday language that no longer make much sense in biology and zoology. Historically, organisms were classified based on their morphological similarities. This is how groups like reptiles were named, for example. However, sometimes two animals sharing apparently similar morphologies can be quite far apart in the evolutionary tree. They end up looking alike out of efficiency because this morphology works within their environment in a phenomenon called convergent evolution. But based on their lineage, animals called reptiles can have very different ancestors. For example, a crocodile or an alligator is more closely related to a bird than to a lizard. We know this through the study of DNA fossil records, the study of bones, and the morphology of scales. If we take a look at the enlarged family of dinosaurs and search for the group to which their clade belongs, we need to move a few million years back in time, around 250 million years ago. Dinosaurs are part of a larger group, a larger clade called the archosaurs, which includes not only non-avian and avian dinosaurs, but also their descendants. It includes crocodiles and pterosaurs, the flying animals that lived during the same period as dinosaurs. Although not part of the same family, pterosaurs are close relatives. The classification in clades looks a bit complicated and sometimes not very intuitive for non-biologists because a classification of a particular species in a clade requires detailed analysis of its remains, morphology, and other comparable organisms. It is a convention based on research, argumentation, and nowadays, complex algorithms even. This approach based on evolution has allowed various breakthroughs in the understanding of life forms. The classification of birds and the lineage of dinosaurs is one. But to make a quick digression, there are other examples. Another one revealed by molecular biology and genetics is the understanding that all sorts of fungi, including yeasts, molds, or mushrooms, are actually more closely related to animals than they are to plants. The traditional distinction between fauna and flora, between animals and plants, is questioned by the existence of fungi. They are not animals because, among other things, they cannot move. And they are not plants either. They share characteristics with animals, such as the way they feed. They dissolve molecules with digestive enzymes. So they are somewhere in between plants and animals. They have their own life kingdom, and this was confirmed by the discovery that all fungi share a common ancestor and are parts of the same clade distinct from other life forms. But let's return to non-avian dinosaurs. The clade appeared between 243 and 233 million years ago during a period called the Triassic. It is known that some periods in Earth's history have been defined by extinction events. Records show a pattern of repetition throughout the history of our planet. Life tended to develop and diversify for periods lasting millions of years until dramatic shifts in conditions occurred. These shifts could result from climatic changes or external events, such as massive asteroid impacts. The theories regarding these events remain a topic of discussion, suggesting that they may have been caused by a single event or a combination of various factors. Regardless, these events led to a rapid reduction in species diversity. It is important to note that quick or rapid in this context does not mean instantaneous. These extinction events could have spanned several millions of years, but they appear quick because the time intervals between them are longer, especially considering the vast timescale of the past. So the so-called Triassic Period covers about 15 million years, from 250 to 200 million years ago. This is when the first dinosaurs walked on the continent Pangea, before it broke up into Laurentia and Gondwana. It is believed that most of Pangea had a continental climate because of its size, which limited the moderating effect of the global ocean surrounding it. This meant hot summers and cold winters. On average, the planet was warmer than today, and the atmosphere was less rich in oxygen, about 80% of current levels. The oceans were dominated by ichthyosaurs and the first plesiosaurs, which are two orders of marine reptiles. The land mass was populated by many reptiles too. Some of them were herbivores such as rhynchosaurs. Others were predators like phytosaurs. These ones looked like modern crocodiles, even though they were not. There were other archosaurs like Rhoesuchians that were also animals related to mammals, such as the cynodonts, which may have had fur as a means of temperature regulation. And among them, the first dinosaurs appeared. But they had humble beginnings in the Triassic. They were only 3 to 6 feet long, that's 1 to 2 meters, and they hunted small prey in the shadow of larger predators. One of the first known dinosaurs is called Coelophysis. Its remains were found in what is now the southern United States and also in South Africa. Coelophysis was a relatively small and slender carnivore. The largest specimens discovered were about 9 feet long, from the head to the tip of the tail, a little under 3 meters. Its weight did not exceed 20 kilograms, or about 40 pounds. The shape of the skull suggests that it had large and forward-facing eyes that gave it a good perception of depth. It is believed to have hunted during the day and hidden at night under the cover of forests. Before Coelophysis, there was an even smaller dinosaur called Eoraptor. It could have been the size of a medium dog and weighed up to 20 pounds, about 9 kilos. It was probably a fast runner and a hunter, searching for small mammals or insects. It is believed that Eoraptor could be, or resemble, the common ancestor of all dinosaurs. Early dinosaurs probably had to hide from bigger and more successful predators. But contrary to them, and maybe because they were not at the top of the food chain, they avoided extinction. Even before the end of the Triassic, larger carnivores and herbivores went extinct, which left more room for dinosaurs in the ecosystems. The first few lines of the dinosaurs diversified before the end of the Triassic, and then came another mass extinction, the Triassic-Jurassic extinction, which occurred 201 million years ago. This event happened very quickly, in less than 10,000 years, just before the continent Pangea started to break into smaller pieces. This mass extinction was not as drastic as the previous one that started the Triassic period. It is estimated that the Permian-Triassic extinction saw the disappearance of 96% of marine species and 70% of terrestrial vertebrates. This time during the Triassic-Jurassic extinction event, only around 30% of marine species and 40% of terrestrial species disappeared. The reasons for this extinction are still debated. They could include a rapid climate change that may have reached a tipping point, or an asteroid impact, but no large enough crater has been found from the same period. However, the asteroid could have hit a place that was later submerged, or it could have fallen into the ocean. It could also be due to massive volcanism. The extinction happened about the time when Pangea was separating, and volcanoes could have released a huge amount of gases. This could have changed the climate, either warming or cooling it. Either way, the extinction happened, and the dinosaurs came out on top in the reorganization of land ecosystems. The first few lines of the dinosaurs' extinction marked a significant turning point. However, after the commencement of the Jurassic Period, approximately 200 million years ago, their descendants emerged and gradually occupied the primary ecological niches. This remarkable evolutionary development led to a diverse array of species taking on crucial roles within their respective ecosystems. The Jurassic was a golden age for the large herbivorous dinosaurs that grew in size dramatically. These are known as the sauropods. An example of the sauropods is Brachiosaurus. Brachiosaurus lived in what is North America today during the late Jurassic, around 153 million years ago. It is estimated to have been between 60 and 70 feet long, 18 to 21 meters, for adults, and have weighed 30 to 60 tons. Distinctive features of sauropods include their very long neck, their small skull, and their huge size. There are other species related to Brachiosaurus, which have been discovered around the world. The small difference is probably due to the separation of the landmass during the Jurassic, which caused regional divergences between groups that could no longer be in contact. With this anatomy, Brachiosaurus and other sauropods are considered high browsers. They probably ate leaves from trees, dropping vegetation as high as 30 feet. For a long time, it was believed that large sauropods could not regulate their temperature. Because of their similarities with other cold-blooded reptiles and their size, warming their entire system would have required a lot of energy. However, recent research suggests that they were warm-blooded and could be more active than previously believed. Some sauropods could be much larger than Brachiosaurus and may have been the largest land animals to ever exist, as far as we know. Bigger sauropods appeared long after the Jurassic Period, well after Brachiosaurus. During the following period, the Cretaceous, the largest known dinosaurs belonged to a group called Tyrannosaurs. Their fossil remains were discovered in the south of South America. There are species called Patagotitan or Argentinosaurus, which would have been 120 feet long, 3.5 meters, with a weight of more than 70 tons. This is twice as big as Brachiosaurus. We can never be sure that our knowledge of dinosaur species is exhaustive. It is very certainly not. About 1,000 different species have been identified, but this is not much for a group that existed for such a long time. Very few fossilized remains, and even fewer remains accessible millions of years later. We may have a reasonably good knowledge of larger dinosaurs because their remains are big and easier to find and date. However, there are probably hundreds, maybe thousands, of dinosaur species that remain undiscovered. Our knowledge of this ecosystem remains fragmented. Alongside sauropods, other smaller herbivores thrived during the Jurassic. Because they were not protected from predators by their sides like sauropods, they developed other means of protection, including armor. A group contemporary to Diplodocus and Brachiosaurus is Stegosauria. This group developed tail spikes, very probably as defensive weapons. And as their size increased and made them less and less able to run from a threat, their armor increased in size and thickness, and it was also harder. Stegosauria had arrays of spikes and blades running along their backs and their tails too. Stegosauria is a large group that diversified a lot in shape and size, depending on the regions where they lived around the world. Contrary to earlier dinosaurs that walked on 2 legs, they couldn't stand and stayed on 4 limbs. Their heads became comparatively small, and they stayed low, close to the ground, indicating that they specialized in collecting vegetation on the ground or just a bit above. They probably never competed with sauropods for food. The scutes on their backs were made of bone. However, they were not attached to the skeleton. It is the skin that's ossified to create them as a young specimen grew up. And another very famous type of armored herbivorous dinosaur is the Triceratops. But there is no chance it could have met a Stegosaurus. Triceratops appeared at the end of the age of dinosaurs, around 68 million years ago. As far as we know, Stegosaurus went extinct 60 million years ago, prior to the appearance of Triceratops. Because non-avian dinosaurs did not disappear with the Jurassic, they continued to thrive during the following era, the Cretaceous. The Cretaceous ended with another massive extinction 66 million years ago. Actually, many dinosaurs associated with the word Jurassic never existed during this period. Apart from Triceratops, Tyrannosaurus is another example of this. It is from the late Cretaceous, and it could not have met earlier species. But it could have fought Triceratops. They are from the same period, and their remains were both found in North America. Triceratops literally means three-horned face. It had a large four-legged body. It was one of the biggest herbivores living in the late Cretaceous, with a weight of about 12 tons when adult. The characteristic horns have long been seen or theorized as defensive weapons, but this remains controversial. It would also have been a means of identification and dominance display. As for the antlers and horns of modern species, we don't know. Triceratops was probably preyed upon by Tyrannosaurus, arguably the most famous and popular dinosaur. Tyrannosaurus is the name of a group, with the most famous being Tyrannosaurus rex, or T-Rex for short. It is well known through fossils found in various rock formations in North America. Contrary to herbivorous dinosaurs that tended to evolve towards smaller heads, Tyrannosaurus had a very big head with a massive skull, balanced by a long and heavy tail. Its four limbs were short, but relatively strong for their size. Tyrannosaurus rex is believed to have had the strongest bite force among all terrestrial animals ever. Other carnivorous dinosaurs could compete in size or even exceed it, but they had disappeared when the age of Tyrannosaurus began. It was by far the largest carnivore in its environment. Its lifestyle is hypothetical, but given its morphology and diet, it appears likely that it was an apex predator that preyed upon herbivorous dinosaurs, including maybe the largest sauropods, when they were young or too old to defend themselves. However, it could also have been a scavenger. Most paleontologists today admit that it was a bit of both, probably. Before Tyrannosaurus, other large carnivorous dinosaurs existed, and they had a rather similar appearance. For example, Allosaurus, which was at the top of the food chain 80 million years before Tyrannosaurus, could have battled with a Stegosaurus during the Jurassic Period. Comparable predators, but smaller and probably quicker, also existed. For example, there was a group called Deinonychus at the beginning of the Cretaceous. These are famous under the name Velociraptors because of the Jurassic Park movies. But velociraptors in the real world were much smaller than that. They were feathered dinosaurs, and they were about the size of a big turkey, very far from the velociraptors in the movies, which are recreations using the morphology from one species and a name from another species that did not live at the same time. As I mentioned before, some dinosaurs were feathered, but unless feathers have been fossilized, which rarely happens, it is difficult to know which ones. It is also impossible to know what color they were. They are often presented in shades of brown or green, or they may be gray, due to the comparison with modern reptiles and the history of their discovery. Since the first discoveries of fossilized remains of dinosaurs in the 19th century, the understanding of dinosaurs and theories about them have changed dramatically. Paleontology, which is the scientific study of life that existed prior to the start of our epoch, developed mainly in the 19th century. The science itself has also changed a lot since then, with the contributions from many other branches of science and techniques, such as chemistry, biology, and engineering. In the past 2 centuries, paleontologists have been able to elaborate on hypotheses about the evolutionary history of life, almost all the way back to when Earth began to support life. The study of dinosaurs is just one aspect of paleontology, even though it's often the most visible one. There are many others. Dinosaur fossils were known long ago, even before paleontology became a recognized field. Some had been discovered in China hundreds of years ago, where they were documented as dragon bones, leading people to believe in the existence of dragons. In Europe, these fossils were initially thought to be the remains of giants or biblical creatures. One of the first groups of dinosaurs to be identified was Iguanodon in 1822 in England. From there, fossilized skeletons started to be reconstructed, and those who collected and studied these fossils realized they resembled ancient giant lizards that had left traces in the distant past. This growing interest in their study led to the coining of the term dinosaur in 1842. The first discovery and identification of a dinosaur in America happened a bit later, in 1858. It's important because it revealed that the creature walked on 2 feet, and this was a revolutionary discovery. Until this point, dinosaurs were thought to walk on 4 feet like lizards. This discovery sparked the first real wave of dinosaur mania in the United States in the late 19th century. A rush began to discover new fossils, culminating in an infamous episode known as the Bone Wars, a fierce rivalry between 2 paleontologists determined to outdo one another. They resorted to bribery, theft, attacks on each other's reputation, and even the destruction of fossils to eliminate the competition. They also reportedly used dynamite to unearth bones more quickly, damaging valuable remains in the process. In the end, both men were left financially and socially ruined by their rivalry. But this bone war led to the discovery of many new species of dinosaurs and to new sites where fossils could be collected. Sites for dinosaur remains can be found on all continents, But apart from North America and Europe, where many early discoveries took place, hot sites in recent decades have been China and South America, especially Argentina. The dominant conception of dinosaurs in the 19th century, based on observation of modern reptiles and given the size of the remains, was that dinosaurs were very slow and very heavy animals. They would have been cold-blooded like lizards, but with such a big size, their metabolism would have been very slow. This conception has changed starting since the 1970s, when it appeared that active predators may have been warm-blooded, which allows for much more energy and speed. The classification of dinosaurs and birds in the same family of species was also a breakthrough made possible by the approaching clades and later confirmed by the analysis of collagen found in dinosaur remains. The structure of collagen varies depending on the DNA of the species. In this case, it appears that the collagen found on a dinosaur from the Cretaceous was very similar to the collagen that ostriches or chickens generate. Returning to the appearance of dinosaurs, the truth is we don't exactly know what they look like. We probably have a good understanding of the shape of some of the largest species. Based on the detailed study of their skeletons, we can determine how their weight was balanced and how they moved. We can also imagine how they fought or hunted. However, we have very little idea about their color. Perhaps they were green or greenish, as generally depicted, but some of them could have been very colorful if this particular feature provided an advantage in evolution. Maybe our vision will be very different in 10 years' time, because the science of dinosaurs keeps evolving. New species are named, and new discoveries are made regularly. What we know is that no non-avian dinosaur survived the end of the Cretaceous. The Cretaceous brutally ended 66 million years ago in another mass extinction that eliminated about 3/4 of all plant and animal species on Earth. Non-avian dinosaurs did not make it after a reign of about 150 million years. As far as we know, no tetrapod, an animal with 4 limbs, which includes humans, weighing more than 50 pounds, survived this extinction. Of course, no large dinosaur qualified. The cause of this mass extinction is more widely accepted than previous extinctions. In the geologic record, there is a thin layer of sediment that can be found throughout the world, corresponding to 66 million years ago, which contains a high level of iridium. Iridium is a very rare element in the Earth's crust, but relatively abundant in asteroids and comets. Therefore, it is believed that a massive asteroid or comet, about 6 to 9 miles wide, fell on Earth and devastated the global environment. It is not solely due to the shock wave that may have played a part, but not enough to destroy ecosystems around the entire planet. The impact winter probably contributed more significantly to the devastation. All the dust propelled into the atmosphere would have plunged the planet into darkness, stopped photosynthesis in plants and plankton, and affected the entire food chain. Larger organisms were at risk of disappearing in such a scenario, and they did. The supposed site where the asteroid fell is located in Mexico, in the Yucatan Peninsula, and it is a 110-mile-wide crater. Maybe other factors than the asteroid contributed to the extinction, but in any case, non-avian dinosaurs disappeared, as did many species of mammals, pterosaurs, insects, birds, and plants. As in previous extinctions, life survived this one and immediately started to radiate again after this event, with new species occupying ecological niches left empty. The one subgroup that diversified a lot during the new period, the Paleocene, is mammals. New forms such as horses, whales, primates, and bats appeared after this extinction. The one branch of dinosaurs that made it through the extinction was birds, as I said earlier. It started to appear long before the end of the Cretaceous. The oldest fossils that point to a transition are from the end of the Jurassic, 150 million years ago. The most famous organism showing the transition is called Archaeopteryx. It was discovered in Germany just 2 years after the publication of Darwin's most famous work titled On the Origin of Species. This book presented the main principles, the foundations of his theory of evolution. At the time, it was seen as proof, a confirmation of evolution. The discovery of Archaeopteryx. Even though it would be a shortcut to call Archaeopteryx the ancestor of modern birds, or the missing link between dinosaurs and birds, it is considered today to share a common ancestor with birds, but it is not the ancestor itself. Archaeopteryx was the size of a raven, which was a relatively small dinosaur. It had feathers, and it is believed that it could fly, or at least glide. It also retained many characteristics of non-avian dinosaurs. It had teeth and a long tail that has completely receded in modern birds. It is a testimony of the appearance of feathers at some point during the Jurassic, and it is called a transitional fossil. It shows a link between non-avian dinosaurs that appeared first and birds. So birds are the only branch of the dinosaur clade that survived and even thrived after the Cretaceous. In fact, in South America, the apex predator during almost the entire Holocene was a bird, but not a cute bird. However, from 62 to 2 million years ago, there was a big carnivorous and flightless group of birds called Phorusrhacidae, also known as terror birds. They stood at heights ranging from 3 to 10 feet, about 1 to 3 meters, and possessed powerful necks and beaks. It is unclear what size of prey they hunted, but for millions of years after non-avian dinosaurs disappeared, it was still a dinosaur, but a bird this time that dominated the land food chain in this part of the world. From the moment dinosaurs were discovered in the 19th century and paleontologists began to investigate them, the public was hooked by these giant creatures, and rightly so. Not just because of the size of some of them and the records they established, but for their adaptability, their variety, and the time they spent dominating the land on Earth. They did so for about 150 million years. They had millions of generations, They survived mass extinctions and climate change. The face of the Earth changed dramatically due to continental drift during their reign. We, modern humans, now dominate our ecosystems, but this has been true for only a few thousand years, maybe tens of thousands of years. This is nothing compared to dinosaurs, just a heartbeat. Humanity's knowledge and understanding of dinosaurs has improved a lot over the past century, but it's still not set in stone. And new theories could emerge, as well as new discoveries. For example, Spicomelus afer, an armored dinosaur discovered in Morocco, is currently the first ankylosaur ever discovered in Africa. An ankylosaur was a group of heavily armored herbivorous dinosaurs that lived mainly during the Jurassic and Cretaceous periods. Its full name is Spicomelus afer. Spico derived from the Latin root for spike, and melus referring to the spiked protective collars used on dogs in antiquity. Afer is Latin for from Africa or African, referencing the continent where it was discovered. This species was named rather recently, after being described in 2021, based on a single rib fused with osteoderms, that is to say, bony deposits forming scales, plates, or other structures based in the dermis. Since then, more Spicomelus fossils have been found, and in 2025, several additional bones that included osteoderms and cranial and postcranial were discovered. This species lived during the Middle Jurassic around 167 to 163 million years ago, which makes it currently the oldest known ankylosaur. It was a herbivorous dinosaur that likely moved on four legs with a low, sturdy body, broadly comparable to other ankylosaurs, although the fossil remains are incomplete. It is estimated to have reached a length of about 4 meters, or a little over 13 feet. What makes Spicomelus especially remarkable is because evidence suggests its body was extensively armored with spikes, some directly fused to its bones, a feature unlike anything known in any other vertebrate. These structures likely served as protection, though display or mate attraction cannot be ruled out. Let's now talk about another interesting specimen, the Velociraptor rangiformis. In 2019, in Montana's Judith River Formation, paleontologists recovered specimen EMK0012, the holotype of Velociraptor rangiformis, which was formally described in 2024. A holotype is a single physical specimen used as the official reference when a new species is described. Velociraptor, meaning roughly Loki's horned face. Loki from Norse mythology was an extinct horned dinosaur that lived around 78 million years ago, during the late Cretaceous. It is sometimes loosely described as a relative of Triceratops, but it belonged to a different branch of horned dinosaurs known as the centrosaurines, while Triceratops belonged to the chasmosaurines. At about 6.7 meters or 22 feet long, It has been described as the largest known centrosaurine from North America. One feature that sets this dinosaur apart is its unusual horn arrangement. Enormous blade-like horns projecting from the frill, no nasal horn, which is unusual for centrosaurines, and asymmetrical ornamentation, resembling caribou antlers. Its horn morphology is thought to have played a role in display, mate competition, or species recognition, rather than serving purely defensive purposes. This discovery also adds to growing evidence that horned dinosaur diversity in late Cretaceous North America may have been greater than previously assumed, with multiple closely related ceratopsian species potentially occupying the same broad regions at the same time. As always, paleontology, taxonomy evolves, and what is interpreted today may be debated, refined, or revised tomorrow. So this is all for tonight. I hope you enjoyed this introduction to dinosaurs, and I invite you to discover and learn more. Now you can let go and sleep. Or if you are not sleepy yet, you may pick another story from my ever-growing library. And until we meet again, good night. Sleep well.